I am going to let Peg do her own introduction, but John and I are here. We'll be keeping an eye on chat and Q&A. And if there's anything that pops up, we will make sure that it gets answered either during the presentation or at the end. So take it away, Peg.
Happy to, thank you. And just to invite people to open up their mics and ask questions or ask me to follow up on something, please do. You won't throw me off, especially since it's an intimate crowd here. I don't want people to feel like they have to sit on questions, so feel free. All right, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to join you at Galileo. It's exciting to be part of the Galileo Unbound New Perspectives on Literacy conference. And I want to talk to you today about O'Reilly, specifically about how to stay ahead of the technology and business learning curves with O'Reilly. So that's what we're here to discuss today. My name is Peg Bissett-Knight. I'm a senior product manager overseeing partners and distributors in our business unit here at ProQuest. ProQuest is now part of Clarivate. So in that capacity, I manage the international partners and distributors who sell our ebooks on our behalf. And the best part of my job, though, is working with O'Reilly Media, which is why I'm here to talk to you today about O'Reilly. I get to work with them almost every single day. We meet once a week to discuss operations and resolve any questions people have. And they're a joy to work with. I'll start by saying that. So on a personal note, it's my favorite part of the job. So without further ado, I'm going to dive into some slides. Once the slides are wrapped up, we'll segue right into looking at O'Reilly. And since it's just the three of us here, I just want to check, does that sound good to everyone?
Oh, wait now. Where you say just the three of us?
I'm not sure how many people are on the line. Yeah.
I mean, we have 16 participants here.
Oh, we do.
Everyone has been admitted, right?
Yeah, they can come in as needed, but yes.
Okay, right. Yeah, I just want to make sure that.
Awesome. Yeah, okay, I can only see 3 in my view, so maybe they're still going to arrive. We'll see.
No, yeah. I think if you click the participants, you can see panels and attendees. So yeah, we got 17 here. We got a good audience. I think we're good to go.
Fabulous. That's perfect. Well, welcome everyone. All right. Still feel free to jump in with questions, put them in the chat. I'll get to them if you share them with me in particular, but let's dive in. First, before we talk about O'Reilly, I want to talk generally speaking about some business and technology trends. I was preparing for a presentation to the Ontario Library Association earlier in the year and did some research, particularly with the World Economic Forum. They have a wonderful website and issue just about every 2 years the Future of Jobs report. So this was last issued in April of 2023. I'm hoping they release another one in 24, but I suspect they're on a every 2 years cycle. So looking through their information, I was finding really good material and also noticing that if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, the fastest growing jobs, the top 10 fastest growing jobs, I've put stars next to the ones that are directly supported by O'Reilly. And if our goal here today is to talk about how to stay ahead of the learning curve in business and technology, I think it's extremely relevant that O'Reilly supports 80% of these fastest growing jobs. And this is without overthinking any of these categories. So AI and machine learning, 100% supported by O'Reilly. All of these, business intelligence, fintech engineers, robotics, big data specialists, the whole list there. I could probably make a case for sustainability specialists, but just without even thinking too hard, 80% of these fastest growing jobs are supported by O'Reilly, which I think of it as sort of a meat and potatoes kind of resource, a need to have sort of resource to serve public communities in particular, and also academic communities. So looking a little further, some of the infographics I was able to find with the World Economic Forum, O'Reilly talks a lot about reskilling and upskilling, which was particularly, those were hot buzzwords during the pandemic, post-pandemic, but they remain of interest because O'Reilly talks about how most of our core skills are going to have to be relearned, shifting into new skills, right? Reskilling. And O'Reilly supports that. So according to the World Economic Forum, 44% of workers' core skills will likely change in the next 5 years. On the right, we see some ideas around big data and AI driving job growth. But what I want to point out here is I'm looking at these roles like big data analytics and artificial intelligence, data analysis, and machine learning specialists. And what I'm noticing personally as I represent O'Reilly to the academic and public library world is there's this tight intertwining of business and technology, the two topics we're here to talk about today. And I feel like that's going to just get more and more intertwined as we go on. It'll be harder and harder to tell what's a business job and what's a technology job. So these are two core themes that more and more live together. Our partnership with O'Reilly is 20 years old. We've been working with them for 20 years. I've had the pleasure of working with them for the past 4 years. And again, I love working with them. They have a long, storied past about supporting technical research and technical learning. In fact, Publishers Weekly, this is my favorite PW cover. An old Publishers Weekly cover, I believe it was in 2000, had a headline that said the internet was built on O'Reilly books. And it had a can of Jolt Cola on it and a really old monitor, big cubic monitor. So my point is O'Reilly's been at this for a while. They sort of started out working on technical books. They built an online learning platform and they do tech events. And they've been doing this again for 40 plus years, actually now 45 years. So they have this vast network of experts, technologists, and business people who support their efforts with content. This is kind of what our O'Reilly solution includes, just to give you a taste. It's books, audiobooks, and videos, sorry. Some of which are extremely sophisticated and maybe high level, advanced, developing apps with GPT-4 and ChatGPT, for example, but then Apple Watch for Seniors for Dummies, right? So wide ranging topics, multiple learning modalities, and then at different levels. Beginner, intermediate, advanced. They support users with audiobooks as well. So that's another way one can stay ahead of the technical curve and business curves with O'Reilly by using Harvard Business Review content. So I love that these are in audiobook format because they're very portable and users can listen to them in the car, on their way to work, and pick up in the garden where they left off and listen to the next chapter on a mobile app for academic users. And then there are courses and videos. You see Tim O'Reilly, who's their founder and CEO, contributes content still to this day. I was earlier today on a webinar. I had the pleasure of listening to a webinar on generative AI that featured Tim O'Reilly and 6 other leaders in the industry talking about generative AI success stories. It was fabulous. So take a look and see what you can find on that. I think some of that might be accessible broadly, the recordings of that. So it was called Generative AI Success Stories. That's just the content they added in the previous year. They continuously update the content. So it's the database is constantly refreshed. Just some reviews from Charleston Advisor and LJ. Charleston gave it a really high mark and talked about how intuitive it was. People can start using it right at the get-go from the search box. And then it was identified as the must-have database for technology in this roundup that LG did at the end of 2020. They've won a number of awards for their learning platform. In fact, this Ed Tech Breakthrough Award, they've just won again. So I need to update this to say 2024. So they do tend to earn these badges and honors year after year. There it is. Okay. Their tagline, their motto is spreading the knowledge of innovators, and that's what they commit to and do. Resource. So I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this. Well, I'm going to actually go ahead and share my O'Reilly screen with you. Just jump into the right space. Bear with me. stop sharing and then I'll reshare. Okay, here we go. Sharing my screen again. Screen number 1. Okay, here we go. So now we're looking at O'Reilly live time. So,
We don't see it.
oh, let me try that again. Oh, I think I have to push share twice. Share screen, that, and then share. Thank you for letting me know. Now we're seeing it, right?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions I should ask now that we're chatting anyway? Are there any questions or comments so far in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, but it looks like Anne has her hand up, so I will let her talk.
Please. Hi, Anne.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand up.
Oh, no problem.
I've done that too. We've done it all, right? At this point.
Yeah,
Zoom and Teams, like
I
every
was
single
trying to
thing.
expand the screen and I accidentally raised my hand. Apologies.
Yes, you may go to the bathroom, you're excused. All right, so let's just dive into O'Reilly and take a look around to show, how it supports both business and technology and keeps you ahead of the learning curve. But before I start firing off searches, I'm just going to talk a little bit about O'Reilly's 45-year history doing this work. So they have something that they refer to as the O'Reilly radar. And what that means is they're watching the horizon constantly to see what's coming in technology and to help divide between the signal and the noise, right? Help us attend to the things we really need to stay focused on in order to stay abreast of technological and business changes. So that being said, this isn't the first time they've thought about artificial intelligence. It wasn't when ChatGPT was released that they started to think about artificial intelligence, machine learning, these things. They've been doing that for nearly 10 years, right? That's been a big focus for them. However, they've seen like the rise in interest in things like ChatGPT over the past couple of years, and of course build content around that to support it even more fully. So you're seeing from the homepage an audiobook called Introduction to Generative AI, where we could listen to that as a user. This is an on-demand course just on Python, and then on the right you're seeing another sort of special topic session that founder and CEO Tim O'Reilly collaborated with others on to talk about ChatGPT's possibilities and pitfalls. And I'll just kind of open that up, show you what that looks like. It's a video. So we're seeing a video player space here. Right.
Developer tool, GitHub Copilot, and now. And
we've got, this gentleman sort of introducing the topic. He's from O'Reilly. And eventually Tim O'Reilly comes in here to talk about his takes on this.
That's great. If this doesn't work, and yesterday, I tried to set that.
Okay. So the video player in O'Reilly works, as you might expect. You can go forward or backward a few seconds, and then you can use the slider to fast forward even further. You can turn off closed captioning or have it on. You can expand the screen, and importantly, for accessibility reasons and discoverability reasons, it's really great that they have the transcript here. So I'm able to navigate around in these cool sessions and videos that way. I can look at the table of contents and also kind of see what the topics are that are of interest here. Sort of take a peek at what this is all about. And I can put this entire session into a playlist for myself if I want to get to this later. So I'm able as a user to create a playlist. I'm going to add one, a brand new one called Galileo. And I'm going to create that playlist, and now I've added that asset to my playlist for later. So that's a really handy tool to be able to kind of sock away information for later on, especially since some of this stuff is so robust. Some of these resources are hours and hours of content. So kind of just wanted to show you some of the things they're doing and that they're highlighting right on the homepage for O'Reilly. They also show recently added and recommended materials and popular materials in these carousels, but I'm going to kind of stay focused on the different ways you can access content at O'Reilly. So what I'm going to start with is a simple keyword search to show you what happens when we search on a technical topic like Python. It automatically wants to show me, hey, here are some titles that we have related to Python. Maybe this is what you're looking for. So I could take a shortcut that way, but I'm just going to fire off a search on Python and get all the results. So it's showing me results on Python in a very clean, uncluttered way. You see it's super minimalistic. That's typical of O'Reilly. Also a dedication to cut through the noise, get to the signal. Just enough for a user to decide whether or not this resource might be useful for them if Python is what they're focusing on. So let's see, if I click on more information, it's going to show me a little bit more information about this resource, metadata associated with the title, key ideas from the book. So if I was holding a physical book, it wouldn't really be possible for me to look at the cover and get a little bit of information here, but also flip through and get the key ideas. So it's kind of nice that they've maximized the use of the medium here. And you can kind of see what this resource is about. If you like what you see, I'm just going to put that in my playlist as well. Obviously, I don't have to use a playlist. It's just kind of convenient as I'm kind of jumping around, looking through results and seeing interesting things. I can sock them away for later. So I'm also able, of course, to filter by format. If I'm just interested in audiobooks on Python, I can simply filter to that. I'll show you what that audiobook player looks like. It will remind you of the video player. It's pretty simple. You see, it tells you immediately how long this resource runs. It's a 13-hour audiobook published by Ascent Audio. A little bit about it, and then I can look at the chapters too. If I wanted to just put the first 3 chapters in my playlist, I could do that, or I could put the whole book in my playlist. Or I can click continue and just go have a look. So here I am in the audio player. Once it's done loading, I'll show you how that navigates. And again, this is an audiobook that I could download on my app, listen to as I'm walking across campus or in my garden or driving to class or whatever it is, any of these things. So we'll give that a second to finish loading. It's kind of taking longer than it normally does. I'll jump into chapter 2 and see what happens. It's also sharing with us the fact that there's a text version of this title. Okay, there we go. That took a while, but here we are. I can move it forward 10 seconds, back 10 seconds, just like with the video, and then I can control the speed, which I can do with the video too. If I want to listen to it very quickly, it would kind of fast forward through some concepts that I don't know I'm not interested in, that's an option. But it's a basic navigation for audiobook. Very simple, very uncluttered. So if I just jump back to my Python results, just arrowing back to where I was, we went in and we limited our results on Python to audiobooks. I'll also show you playlists. So again, I talked about that vast network that O'Reilly has created of experts in business and technology. What they do is they have these experts create playlists. So you can see this one is followed by quite a number of people. So that's got my attention. It's how to become fluent in Python. Becoming fluent in Python. I'll show you what that looks like. These are playlists created by experts in the space. They can be books, whole books. They can be specific chapters within a book. They can be segments of a video, segments of audio, and so on. So you can see I can construct my own playlist, but I can also look at expert playlists in a topic of interest. So that's a kind of another facet that I can apply to the topic of Python. And then I can filter by other things such as language, topics, playlist type, and so on. Depends on what I'm looking at. The filters will change, of course. If I click on all, it's also going to let me filter by publisher. So O'Reilly, this is a different kind of aggregated resource than any one I've ever used. At the core of it is their own published materials. So they've been publishers again for 45 years. They've published quite a bit of material in technology. So you can bet that their material is in here. But because they value multiple voices in their efforts to keep people ahead of the curve, they also partner with about 200 other publishers. you'll start to recognize names as I come through here. Addison Wesley is one you probably recognize. Ascent Audio we talked about earlier. Barrett Kohler. If I kept going down here, I'd find Pearson and Wiley and Taylor and Francis, Elsevier. So well-regarded publishers who they, vet, of course, and bring in the content, the best of the best, to make sure that they're giving users the best content for both business and technology. So I could limit to the Pearson educational content if I wanted. And here it is. Okay. So we talked a little bit about a keyword search. We looked at Python. Let me show you what a keyword search on a business topic might look like. Strategy is what I plugged in here. You can see a few titles rolling up on strategy, some topics, but I'm just going to fire off my great big search on the word strategy, the concept of strategy, and see what I get. And you can see I've got the strategy book. I've got a Harvard Business Review audiobook on strategy. There are 10 must-reads on strategy, and then a lot of other books. This one here with the red badge, that's an O'Reilly title. You can tell by their woodcut animal cover, you probably recognize it as librarians, as their kind of brand. But you see the red badge, it says early release. That's worth talking about for just a minute here. Notice how the pub date is February of 2025. It is raw and unedited. It is not yet published, but they include their early release titles in this resource to keep people, again, ahead of the business and technology learning curves, right? So we're way out ahead of the game because we have access to this. You can see the table of contents here, just like with a published title. And they always identify early release titles as raw and unedited with the red badge on. I can also use this featured pull down list and look at all early releases. So, if I were to go there, we'd see a lot on generative AI and so on. But just to give you a really clear sense of how they help you stay ahead of the curve. Any questions? I'll stop there just to ask any questions or comments in the chats, or does anybody want to open up their mic and chat, ask a question, redirect?
Nothing yet, but if anyone wants to raise their hand, I am happy to
Please.
allow them to turn on their mics.
Yeah, that no problem. If anybody wants to jump in, please raise your hand and we'll get you in. All right. So we talked about, a keyword search on a business topic, a keyword search on a technology topic. What we haven't done yet is done like a search on topics, like a browse. So let's take a look at their topics browse. When we click on topics, we're met with kind of the highest level of hierarchy. So these are those. If I click on business, it'll take me down the next level of hierarchy. These are topics that roll up to business. Similarly, if I click on data science, it'll take me to topics related to that. But I like to explore topics more broadly. So I'm going to click on view all to take you to a topics browse that they have. So this is all topics. If I go in here to the filters, I can simply browse through the list of topics that are official O'Reilly, topics, or I can just search on the topic of interest to me. Feel free to suggest a topic in the chat, or if not, what I started O'Reilly with, I was interested in design thinking. I still am. And so I thought, well, that's a good entry point. Let me see what they have on design thinking, because it's a topic I'm interested in. I know a little bit about it. Let's see how O'Reilly treats design thinking. So I went there, and it gives you a kind of a landing page on the topic. It describes the topic. It shows in these pills related topics. So if I kind of went down the wrong path, I really wanted to know about user experience, I could redirect right here. It shows these discovery modules here. These boxes are called discovery modules. I think in an earlier Galileo presentation, someone referred to it as like bento. In O'Reilly, these are called discovery modules. So I can keep them there, or I can hide them and go straight to results. So now I've got results on design thinking that I can explore. Things that if I like, I can just stick into my playlist. Here's my Galileo playlist. So I put that HBR title in there. and I can explore to my heart's delight. So it's a matter for a topic search. It's just a matter of typing the topic in the box. I'm going to put in math. So you can see there are math, science, and engineering topics in O'Reilly. No surprise. Again, O'Reilly Radar. Here are radar trends to watch in 2022. So relating to math in this case, essential math for data science, and so on. So again, because it can seem super sophisticated when you run into a title like essential math for data science, that's not a title everybody can relate to and that everybody's going to use. But a title that maybe more people, like the common, the layperson could handle on math might be, I'm going to go down to For Dummies, a For Dummies title. So just to give you a sense of the range of content. We've got quantum physics for dummies. We've got trading psychology for dummies, geometry essentials for dummies, algebra 1 essentials. So we've got low level to high level content in a variety of formats for a variety of different kind of learning styles and users to keep everyone ahead of the curve in technology and business. So I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about generative AI and ChatGPT and that stuff that is so a part of our international conversation right now. It's everywhere you go. I will mention briefly that if I click on ML and AI, machine learning and artificial intelligence as a topic, you'll see this generative AI. That's a brand new topic for O'Reilly. They never had a subtopic called generative AI. Everything was sort of folded into ML and AI. So I'm going to open that up, show you what they've got. So I'll show the discovery modules. It gives you a nice description of generative AI, shows some discovery modules. You see material from, again, a variety of voices like Pact Publishing, Manning Publications, O'Reilly itself, Pragmatic AI Labs, and so on. And you see the kind of content we're looking at too. They have multiple content modalities. So we've got books, we've got on-demand courses, videos, and so on. So quite a lot of information to help us stay ahead of that curve in generative AI while we're all trying to figure this out. The session I went to earlier today with Tim O'Reilly and a number of people, one of the gentlemen said, so much is going to change in the next 8 months. We're all trying to figure this out. Luckily, there's a lot of authoritative information here in O'Reilly already. It's not people trying to figure it out for the first time. It's, again, they've been focusing on this for nearly 10 years and are way ahead of kind of the international conversation around AI. I think I see a chat. Is there a comment in the chat? Oh, I can see yes. Just a yes. Okay. All right. So hopefully you're seeing the ways O'Reilly can keep all of us ahead of that curve. I want to show another kind of content modality that O'Reilly includes called courses. I'm clicking on Start Learning and I'm going to courses. Prior to this way of navigating courses, O'Reilly just had all of their courses bucketed in a big bucket called videos. They're all video courses, but they were really kind of hiding the value under a bushel. It really wasn't clear how much detailed information and pedagogically sound information they had on some of these topics. So here you can start to see how deep these go. This one is Python Fundamentals. It is a 47-hour course. That's one of the longest I've ever seen. 25 hours I think is plenty long too. This one's 8 hours, but there are also 2-hour courses. Here's a 3.5-hour introduction to Python. So if I'm a user who wants to become a little more proficient or get an understanding of a role in technology or business, courses is a good route for me. And that's a great way for me to stay ahead of the curve. So I'm going to go ahead. Right now, it thinks I want to be a data analyst. I'm going to change that role just by going down here to edit my learning preferences. And all of these pills have different roles. Right now, as you can see, data analyst is selected. I can choose any of these. Does someone want to put in the chat a role they'd like for me to explore, one of these roles, I welcome anyone to pop something in the chat that looks interesting. Otherwise, I'll jump in and figure it out. No? Oh, tech lead.
Tech lead.
Awesome. I've never done that one. So that's, I feel like I've checked them all, but I've never done tech lead. So let's say that's my interest. I want to become a tech lead. I'm going to click on that. Now it's showing me there are 25 skills associated with tech lead. So I can click here to choose my skills. Oftentimes people don't want, anybody who's worked in education probably recognizes, especially high school students, college students, when they have some foundation and some information, they want adaptive learning. They don't want to retread information they already know. So this is kind of an adaptive learning sort of moment where I don't necessarily want to learn about all of the skills related to tech lead. Maybe I'm really familiar with Agile, or I know clean code, but I want to know about conflict resolution, and I want to know about design patterns. I'm picking random things. I want to know generative AI, GPT, how to run meetings, and lean. So I'm just picking 6 of these skills, and I just save my selection. I can always go back and add more. And now it has shown me just the courses. It's delivering back to me the courses that relate to tech lead and these particular skills for tech lead. I can also take my little slider here and adjust. Let's say I'm just getting started. I want the beginner to intermediate stuff only. I can click on apply. And all the really sophisticated advanced stuff can go away. I can hover on these little bar charts and see, okay, this is intermediate. Here's a beginner one on introduction to generative AI. Perfect. So you can see how it delivers up these resources based on my interest in a role and the skills related to that role. So I'm going to go ahead and open the course to show you that. Okay, this view gives us a lot of background information on the course, quite a bit of detail, including the course outline, the instructor. It really parses it out for us, so we get a sense of what's in this lesson, these lessons. I can go ahead and just open the course by clicking continue. And here's my instructor introducing himself. Pause that. So similar to every other asset that we've looked at today, I can put things in my playlist. I'm going to go ahead and put this whole course in my playlist, my Galileo playlist. So that's now there for me. If I didn't want the whole course, let's say it's one of those 45-hour courses, maybe I do want to go in and just pick individual segments of the course to dig into. So that's there for me too, if I want to pick away at it. But I love what O'Reilly did here with taking this content that was very different than just a video, right? We're not talking about a little TED talk. Some of these are courses from the likes of Pearson, talking about these topics in depth. And also for people who are kind of pivoting into new roles or enhancing their curriculum vitae, their CV or their resume, these are opportunities for people to prepare to take certification tests. So much of the course stuff here is certification test prep material. So for adults in public library settings who really want to bone up on PMP because they want to become a project manager and they're going to take the PMP test, they can use the material here to prepare for their certification test in that space. So that is how the courses help users stay ahead of the business and technology curve. Are there any questions or comments on that before I leave courses? I'm going to just go back to the select a role just to show you a couple things. Tech lead certainly sounds technical. Android developer, C developer, data architect, but there are some business topics in here as well, and I want to tease those out. So we've got business analyst, business intelligence analyst, we've got data analyst, product manager, product owner. That's sort of one that definitely straddles technology and business. Project manager. These are all roles that are as much business, if not more business than technology. So they've got a leg in each world. So just kind of want to point that out. So we looked at topic search, we looked at the courses. I want to show you the answers tool. O'Reilly's had this in the product for, I feel like, 1.5 years now. It's a natural language search, so it's very much in keeping with all of what we're seeing, and being able to tell the system what we want and have results come back. So they give you some canned questions that you can use just to understand how the answers work. But I can also type in a question here. If someone has a question they would like me to ask, I will put it in here. I see the question here in the chat that says, is there a certificate? They don't get a certificate within O'Reilly. No, there's no like badge or certificate functionality, but it's something they're thinking about. It's something we've been hearing about in the academic and public library space that would be of value that users seem to want. Yeah. Let's just use this question called, what are generators in Python? Instead of typing Python and then sifting through a bunch of results, you're welcome. Instead of sifting through all these results in Python to find our answer, let's assume I typed in the sentence, what is the best way to learn Python? It's going to deliver back not a big results list. Instead, it's going to take us to the answer to our question. So these results, and you can see you can arrow forward or backward. These results are meant to address my specific question, what is the best way to learn Python? So they've created the technical intelligence here within the system to take me to those results. If I like what I see, I can kind of scan through these. Here's a video. So it's video and book information. Let's say I think this video is perfect. I can go ahead and click on learn more, and it will take me to that content. It'll drop me down
Hi,
right
I'm Sean Wassell, and welcome to
where it had me at the beginning, and I can go ahead and add that to my playlist for Galileo. So very cool way of helping users, as they're always dedicated to doing, get to the content as quickly as possible. That's kind of their mantra too. So that's what O'Reilly Answers is. Under featured, we've already looked at the early releases. I'll just kind of show you, if I click on that, it limits everything to early release view. So everything will have a red badge. You're going to see, we saw this one, I think, earlier. O'Reilly also has a 97 things kind of series that they publish, like 97 things every UX practitioner should know. This one is 97 things every application security professional should know. But if we were to limit over here, let's say we're going to limit to machine learning and AI, we can see what all of the early release content is on machine learning and AI. So now it's limiting to those topics. You can see these pub dates are sometimes way in the future. This one's December 24, this one's May 25. So not only do they have more authoritative AI information and generative AI information than most resources, because they've been doing this for nearly 10 years, thinking about the space. They've got material in the making that's available to all of us even before it gets printed and bound and sent out to the world. So talk about keeping us ahead of the curve. We definitely have resources here to help us stay ahead of it. Any questions or comments or redirects anywhere at this point? We're good? Okay. So I'll open up an early release title just because I don't think we've looked at a book yet. So this is the book view. It's showing us a landing page just as the others do. And then a brief table of contents, again, not yet final, it's in the making. But we can page through and kind of see what this one's about so far. We can look at the table of contents, we can pin it. And what I like about that functionality is it does something for us that a print book won't even do. We can pin the table of contents here and then page through the pages on the left. So something you can't really do with a physical book. As much as I like physical books, I do. I can also, if I'm an academic user, I can mark this text and highlight it and add a note saying, be sure to read final chapter once it's published. So maybe I want to read the chapter that's early release, but then revisit it when it's complete. So that's going to add that highlight right to my little human icon up here in the upper right. So my highlights and notes will be stored there. So that's the book browse, so like the book reading view, I should say. Okay. We talked a little bit about early releases. Expert playlists we did have a look at, but I'm going to show you the view for expert playlists. If I'm clicking on expert playlist from featured, it's going to group up all the expert playlists for me. You'll see the number of followers at a glance. Let's just open this one up. Neil Ford is an information architect guy. He seems to show up in all of these information architecture spaces. When I open up his playlist, you can see there are 97 followers. You'll start to see what he's put in here. So we've got a chapter, a course section. It's not a whole course. It's yet another chapter, another course section, and he's grouped them into these sections. Like this section is dedicated to harnessing cloud asynchronous systems for storage movement. So very helpful, again, leveraging the experience and the expertise of all these people in the O'Reilly network. That's what this whole expert playlist thing is about. So if I click on shortcuts, that's yet another thing O'Reilly invented along the way. They call these, content modalities. So a book, an ebook, I should say an ebook, an audiobook, a video, a course. Those are modalities, right? As is the expert playlist. Shortcuts is a new content modality that they released at the end of 2023. So this came up for the first time in December 2023. I got an email saying, hey, we've got this new thing. Here's some more information about it. Isn't it great? And O'Reilly started out with 6 topics. 1, 2, 3. So at this level of ChatGPT, Gemini, and Llama, there were 6 topics. They're now up to, I think, 13 or 14, maybe more. And they'll keep adding additional shortcuts. The point of these is like they're mini lessons in a topic of high interest. So a great example is the ChatGPT one. Everybody's curious about that. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that shortcut for you. Here we go. Or that topic for you, and we'll see the shortcuts they've got here. Each of these are meant to be like 10-minute or less micro lessons, right? So you can see already, this is interesting. 2,100 people, 2,161 people are following this list of shortcuts. A lot of interest in this topic, of course. So the first one is kind of foundational. If you're delving into the world of ChatGPT, you're going to want to know how to get the best results, how to put the best prompt together. So what you put in is going to dictate what comes out. So here, this little quick micro lesson, it's rated as a difficulty level easy. Look how short it is. That's it. It's really meant to help us create better prompts when we use ChatGPT. So it's telling us that the magic formula is you will act as a fill-in-the-blank role with an expert background in fill-in-the-blank domain. You are helping a teacher, I'm going to make up a role, human role, who is required to, who has the required expertise and strong dedication to mastering physics for 10th grade students or something. Your task is to find the best physics resources out there. Really weird example. Begin by scouring, our library resources. Okay. So I could construct a prompt based on their advice and ideally get better results back from ChatGPT. So it gives us some really fun foundational information on constructing better prompts. Then another shortcut they have here is having ChatGPT ask us questions to kind of get, again, better examples, better results. So you can use ChatGPT to help you work on problems, even if you don't want to use its output as part of your project. So it's, again, coaching us on prompts. You'll act as a writing coach with an expert background in plastic waste. You're helping write an essay on plastic waste and marine life for the local paper. So it steps us through how to collaborate with ChatGPT to eventually have material that we can finesse into our own material. So this is kind of cool. That's what these O'Reilly shortcuts, these shortcuts that they introduced at the end of 23 are meant to be, is like these, again, micro lessons in these high interest topics. And there, you can see there are several related to ChatGPT. They've got them organized by writing, coding, whatever the category is. And above that, I think it's principles. So just to show you the range here, that was just ChatGPT, right? We could look at Gemini, formerly known as Bard. We could look at Llama for large language models. But I'm going to take a look at this one. Workplace communication. This one really caught my eye because it's so different than the big technical topics that we've been looking at. So these are fabulous, I think, because they're so basic. They're just, everyone can benefit from writing more succinct, effective emails, from being a more active listener. These are all soft skill kind of communication materials in O'Reilly shortcuts. Let's see what improve your skills at reading nonverbal communication looks like. So this is, probably body language, and it's giving us a little bit of information about how to be self-aware, how to observe the delivery of the person you're communicating with, and so on. So just a short little lesson in workplace communication, in this particular case, nonverbal communication. I think it's fascinating that they took that on because I like it as an example of a business topic that is clearly a soft skill topic. So I kind of like these little shortcuts. So in that very practical way, O'Reilly helps us stay ahead of the business and technical curve in a completely different way. I don't know of another resource, another database that provides little shortcut kind of lessons like this. I think it's pretty cool. Then I was noticing a colleague of mine told me that he used O'Reilly for his own work. He was a salesperson and he could never remember how to do a pivot table. So I was noticing that O'Reilly has now included a shortcut in Excel pivot tables. So I'm going to open that up for you. Every time I have to do a pivot table, I have to remind myself. I don't use them all the time. So it's kind of like, not like just getting on a bike. It's like, how do I do that again? Oh yeah. So it shows you how to insert a pivot table, you can add rows, columns, and values, how to refresh it, and how to move it. Little lessons in pivot tables, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty new one, so there's only 8 followers on that one. But I find that fascinating too. So you see examples of O'Reilly not just constantly iterating, like when they looked at all their content and said these videos really ought to be called courses, and let's have a whole new way to navigate courses by skill and role. You see O'Reilly inventing new content modalities. Let's make sure we have shortcuts for these really high interest topics that get to the heart of what people are looking for as quickly as possible. Again, that's kind of their focus. And you've seen them relying on multiple voices in the market to bring the best of the best for both business and technology to us. So I hope that helps kind of give people a sense. The other thing I like to share when I'm talking about O'Reilly is their Insights dashboard. This is more about keeping the librarians ahead of the curve and knowing about their users, if you can believe that. Let me just to give an example. I always use University of Michigan, and this is broad data that's anonymized, so we're not going to look at anybody's personal searches. University of Michigan is in my backyard here in Ann Arbor, so I better spell it right. University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Here we go. And I'm going to look at the last 12 months. So let's refresh that. Okay. That was the last 30 days. Whoops, it defaulted back to ProQuest Learning. Try that again, sorry. Okay. And we're going to look at the last 12 months. I like to do that because usually, I'm going to switch to 6 months. Usually last 30 days on a college campus, it being June, there's not a lot going on. So What it's showing us is activity trends over the period. I can adjust this, and instead of looking at 6 months, I can look at 12 months. I can look at a very visual, like a bird's eye view daily usage summary. Let's say I want to know what are the heaviest times of use of the O'Reilly database at the U at University of Michigan. I can literally see what the heaviest days of use are across a whole 12-month period. The dark green squares are the heaviest use. You can see the medium usage is the stripes, low usage is the dotted boxes. But look at September, of course, kids are back in school, no surprise. January, a bunch of end of term projects, you know, that kind of thing. And you can literally hover on a square and find out what was the top content used on January 15th. It's incredibly flexible. I can download this into CSV format. And if I'm a person who likes to do pivot tables and play with data, that would be fun. I can mine through that data. O'Reilly also focuses on linearity. So just like librarians that I work with, they want to know everything about the user, right? They want to know, are people looking at this material A through Z step by step, or are they jumping around? So they look at topics that way. You can see business as a topic is more linear than nonlinear. People go more A to Z in business than they do in, say, software development here. But it doesn't end there. I can dig into business and see the subtopics. Look at the linearity there. It looks like project management for some reason is very linear, where design is less linear. And let me look at, if I click on project management again, it will take me down another level. I can see that, let's see, project management professional, so the PMP certification is very linear. JIRA, somewhat linear. Same with software estimation. So I love that because, again, I haven't worked with librarian, users who didn't want to know more about what users were doing. I've been in this business for longer than I care to admit, decades, working with librarians, working with academic librarians in particular at companies like ProQuest, Cengage, and so on. And I've never met a librarian who didn't want to know more about what their users were up to, what they needed, how they were using information. So this insights dashboard is a treasure trove to keep you ahead of the learning curve on what your users are doing in business and technology. It also shows you where they're broadening. So these bubbles are going to realign when I change the date parameter. Right now it's 3 months. I'm going to ask for 12 months. System rejiggers everything and gives me information on 12 months of usage. So users have been broadening in these topics. And if I hover over a bubble, it shows me the top 5 subtopics. I can kind of change these back and forth at will, change my time parameter. Again, I can download to CSV format here. There's also something similar for users deepening. I won't belabor that, but I'm going to just show you how you can extend it, and you can, to the full quarter. You can drill here too. So within the topic of data, I have data science, ML and AI, data engineering, and other data topics. This, though, is my favorite chart because it's such a quick glimpse of so much information. I can extend my time period to 12 months here, and you'll see what the campus, University of Michigan's campus, has been focusing on over the 12 months. We've got 3 huge spikes in data science. That's kind of interesting. One in August, one in like January, and one in, it's like May. Along with some big peaks in ML and AI, machine learning and artificial intelligence. And I'm assuming that will continue to peak in the coming year. So they focus on these 5 topics. I just keep thinking that if I were working as a liaison to a department, a discipline on campus, I would want to take a screen capture of this and say, hey, I thought I'd reach out and tell you what people have been using O'Reilly for in the last 12 months. Here's what our campus has been up to. Because I think it's just such helpful information. So, they also show you top content in a very visual way and allow you to download that to CSV format and adjust the parameter here too. So you can kind of see what the school has been focused on. Last but not least, I think I'm going to take you into the topic browse one more time, because I didn't talk about things that were not technology and business. Much to my surprise, and to most people who I share this with, to their surprise as well, O'Reilly does focus on topics that are kind of applicable to everyone, not just business and technology, but soft skills. I'm going to go ahead and search on soft skills to show you what I mean. The related topics tell you a lot about this. So they cover things like professional communication. Sure, that's kind of business. So is public speaking and business strategy, but professional development, personal productivity, career development. So once I click on career development, you'll kind of see some resources that really would probably help anyone in a public library setting, an adult in a public library setting, or any student, faculty member, or staff member on campus. We've got materials on launching your career. There are materials on career confidence, on acing the interview for programming, on there's materials on improving your presentations, on the HBR guide to your job search, career confidence. So I always talk about, when I'm talking with an academic institution, I always say, you know, your career counseling service on campus might also be interested in taking a look at this, just because it's well beyond what we think of as business and technology. These are really almost self-help books for adults who are employed or want to be employed or want to be, you know, kind of extending their assets on their resume and their experience. So I find that kind of an important thing to unpack for people when I'm talking about O'Reilly, just because it's not obvious. Similarly, we have materials on professional development, where you see things like life-work balance. You might not necessarily expect that to be in O'Reilly. Public speaking, confidence and motivation, this kind of thing. So I've given you a whirlwind introduction here, hopefully addressing the topic at hand of how O'Reilly helps users stay ahead of the business and technical curves. Again, they're deeply devoted to keeping people ahead of those curves and to staying ahead themselves, so that they have that O'Reilly radar constantly watching the horizon to see what's next and preparing people for what they need to know. And so much is going on right now with AI and machine learning and large language models. It's not going away anytime soon. So I know they'll keep adding material here to keep us up to speed. With that, I will just open it up to questions. See if anybody has any questions or anything they'd like me to take a look at specifically. Is there anything in the chat?
I was going to say nothing in the chat or Q&A yet.
Okay, let's give it a sec. Just in case somebody pops in. And I hope that kind of addresses the topic at hand that we said we would unpack today, which is staying ahead of that business and technology curve, which can't be easy. I remember, again, having done this for a while, I remember when the biggest challenge for business and technology resources in a library were currency and space, right? Those were always the things I heard about. Like, it's so hard to keep current materials in business and technology, and it's so hard to have enough space for this material. So I like that this addresses both those things by design, you know, by being constantly updated and by being digital. And it's kind of, it's unlimited access 24/7 as well. So I hope that resonates for people too. I know that there are 16 people here. I do see now that there are 16 participants. Is there anyone who has a question or comment? I know it's a lot to absorb. I will say that when I've done webinars with librarians on O'Reilly, we've often focused on workforce development in the public library space in particular. So a lot of libraries seem to have a real mission to support adults who are looking to pivot or, you know, kind of enhance their skills, to amplify their resume a bit and diversify and stand apart from other job applicants out there. So we talk about workforce development, and I think this is a good theme when you're talking about O'Reilly. But then on the academic side, it focuses on so many different aspects that will help not only technologists, but business people and people looking at technical careers that aren't engineering careers. So for example, what I do, product management, project management, product ownership, that kind of thing. Tech lead is another one we saw. So just want to open it up once more. Any questions or comments or any searches anybody would like me to fire off here?
I will say we are at the end of the hour and I see no hands or questions.
All right.
But Peg, I'm sure you are available for questions if anyone
Absolutely.
has it.
Should I put my email in the chat just in case? I'll do that. Just-
Sure, drop
why
it
not?
in there.
This is me, pegged@night@clarivate.com. In case anyone wants a follow-up exchange or has a question later on that they want to jump on. I appreciate your time and energy, especially after the end of 2 long days. I hope you had so much good stuff come your way. I hope it was a good couple of days for Galileo.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for attending. Have a wonderful afternoon.
My pleasure. Thanks very much.